welcome to Everlasting Talk. Hello, welcome to Everlasting Talk. This is your host, Barista Junior Herrera, and today we're talking about Aristotle. This is the Biography series. Aristotle is one of the greatest philosophers of all time. Aristotle was born in 385 BC in Sangria, Greece. At the age of 17, he was sent to Athens to Plato's Academy until 347 BC when Plato passed away. Plato and Aristotle would disagree on many different things. Aristotle would be more on learning about biology, and Plato was more mathematics. He would focus more on different things like that. Well, Plato was not. Plato would be more on the theory of forms, but the notion of a form itself. For Aristotle, forms do not exist independently of things. Every form is a form of something. So they disagree on many different things, but they did agree on several other things as well. But he would actually move to Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey, and remained there until 343 BC. He met Phaedrus and married her, who was a daughter of his good friend Hermias. That same year, at the request of Philip, the king of Macedon, he was ordered to tutor the son of the king. His name was Alexander, who would grow up to be Alexander the Great. Aristotle would tutor Alexander until he was 15 years old, where he would go serve in Philip's military. There isn't much on what happened between 341 to 355 BC, but in 335 BC, Aristotle would appear in Athens and create his own school, the name was Lycurium. He would teach everything from biology, logic, music, astronomy, medicine, government, physics, the arts, and etc., political sciences. Phaedrus, his wife, would die, and he would get into a new relationship with another woman named Herphilius, having children together as well. In 323, he was forced to leave Athens as rising tensions of anti-Macedonian sentiment was happening, as Alexander the Great was very ill. Fearing for his life, he moved to Clales off the coast. He died of natural causes with a dietary issue in 322. He is one of the most famous philosophers. I really liked his quotes like, "Quality is not an act, it's a habit. And no great genius has ever existed without the touch of madness." He wrote several books like Poetics, where Aristotle observes, analyzes, and defines tragedy and epic poetry. Also, Necromentian ethics, metaphysics, politics, rhetoric, and etc. 200 estimated works, and only 30 to 31 are still in circulation. And he was heavily influenced. He was actually the father of modern political science. He would elaborate on topics and thinking of ideal state, slavery, revolution, education, citizenship, forms of government, the theory of golden mean, the theory of constitution. He would, actually, if I didn't tell you before, Plato was the student of Socrates. So it's pretty much Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates had the same logic, but Aristotle is known as the father of political science. Actually, Aristotle was not a fan of democracy. His point of view when it came to voting was that voting in elections is a skill, not a random intuition. And like any skill, it has to be taught to the people, not just given to them. And just letting people vote without having that education, it's irresponsible because you don't know who you put into office. It's like pretty much like giving a car to a newborn baby and expecting them to know how to drive. Like, you got to teach them how to drive, right? And they got to grow up. So They say that democracy, they believe that democracy is, they're more concerned with their money than they can help people. So that, they're very critical about democracy. They rejected it because it could be, people go by the impulses, not by the common good. And that's why Aristotle, it's controversial, but yeah, he did believe in government. He believed that we do need a constitution, but you have to be an intellectual to vote, and it could be chaotic. But he is very influential. I mean, he's still talked about today, even though it was a couple thousand years. He, maybe people will criticize that he was a pagan, but he had very Christian um, ideologies about the things he talked about. Um, you know, he was, more about, he was just very, very influential. And, like the books I mentioned, it's definitely good to check those out because, like I said, he's one of the most influential people. He mentored, like I mentioned, Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great ended up being one of the greatest military leaders of history, taking over most of the world at his time. So it's definitely someone to look into if you want to learn more about ancient Greek history. And and everything. Eventually, I'll talk about Alexander the Great in episode 2 down the road. Look out for that. But yeah, Aristotle is on a whole different level. Uh, if you ever just look at his works, you'll know that he was very influential and one of the best. And if anything, thank you so much for listening to this episode 6 of Everlasting Talk, the biography series, Aristotle. And if anything, thank you so much, and follow me on our social media. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everlasting Talk. For more content, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Everlasting Talk. Thank you.